Here's what will destroy your brand: the spine, bones.
Right.
You know, in the past, we wanted to talk about the nervous system, but we felt like the spine was more of our effective starting point, right? Okay, let's start with the spine, and then we're going to take it into the nervous system. Do you know how many people, because branding is visual and everything else, people just got stuck on the spine? Chiropractors got stuck on the spine. The patients got stuck on the spine. The marketplace kind of, pigeonholed us and stuck us on the spine. Actually, and it's one of the first training videos, the one with the most comments, Angus, when people go through the PX membership. And so you can tell it's the real oh my God, this is the game changer video that I teach. It's called Ditch the Spine. This is the stuff that's working now to save kids' lives, because that's what this is. Your marketing is literally the first step in saving a child's life and transforming an entire family. So fall in love with it, get really damn good at it, and you'll never want to stop doing it.
Dr. Tony Ebel, welcome to the Marketing in Your Practice podcast. How are you, my dear, dear friend?
Good morning. Good afternoon. Oh, shoot. I should know it. I'm fantastic, brother, man. I'm talking with you. How can I be anything other than stellar?
It has been a little while. We've both been doing busy, you in particular. Sure. I'm constantly amazed, dude. The output that you have, you're the very definition of the difference between being efficient and effective. The output is just phenomenal. I love your vision and all those things. In today's episode, we're going to do a State of the Union. We want to talk about what's changing in chiropractic. What things are going to continue to work that worked last year and will perhaps work next year and the year after that too. But we're both of the thought that there is a massive tidal wave coming, and that those chiropractors that jump on board with this too are going to be able to ride that to a practice that has, first of all, tremendous impact, changing lives in a way that, we perhaps maybe forgot it was possible from there too. And then with that will come an amazing income as well. So we're going to solve the income problem with regards to all of that too. And this also needs to come underneath the umbrella of being really enjoyable too. Because I've had practices that if there's not impact, income, and enjoyment, that's a stool that doesn't balance itself there too. So
the fulfillment, this path brings impact, income, and then my same word, just the way I love to see it, is just the fulfillment and the joy, which is honestly where my energy comes from, which is where my productivity comes from. If that cycle, right, if you kind of see that as a flywheel, if that didn't spit out, so much fulfillment and impact and joy, heck no, I wouldn't have, the ability to maintain the energy to plug right back into the front end of it, right, for productivity. So it's a magical practice model for sure. That'll be the net thesis of our State of the Union. Holy heck, this model exists, and it's probably always existed, but the model matches so mother freaking perfectly with the marketplace and this massive title shift that you're just wow.
Yeah, I think, absolutely this practice has existed, and you've had it long before this last 12, 24 months there too. But, I think the opportunity there is easier now than ever. And I want to touch on those because there is a bit of a culture at the moment that is a hustle and grind culture. And God bless those chiropractors that are out there that are just saying, if I just work harder, I can make it happen. And I don't want to pretend for one. I'm yet to see anybody that's built a really thriving business that hasn't had some elements of hard work. But I also want to say here, that is not the only ingredient. And so if you're working your tail end off and you're not seeing some results, then it's possible that you're working in the wrong area. And the other thing that's difficult, I know this is difficult for me, is that lots of times in my life, I've chosen to metaphorically dig a hole with a teaspoon as opposed to using a backhoe digger. There are backhoe diggers available nowadays, and I've wanted to stand upon this pillar of, look how hard I'm working, look at me go, look how hard I'm digging with this fucking teaspoon. And it's your self-worth does not come from how hard you're working. Yeah. So a little bit more self-love and realize that, let's use the tools that are available to us.
It's It's interesting you kick it off there, buddy, because that's been top of mind for me and it's been in my heart. And I'm like, how do I find a way to like share this more with the profession and people, whether and again, whether they ever, want to have a family practice and thus will become, trained by PX, or they're just like seeing me as someone who has been able to make a big impact, build a big practice, have a great life. And it's like, okay, could that be a helpful model, right, for you to follow? Well, when you look at it, because social media is always, you can kind of glean a lot of things, but you can't glean everything. The thing that I don't know, it stresses me out because I don't want people to get the wrong story. I probably look like someone who works 80 to 100 hours a week and is burnt out, tapped out, and just ultra. In fact, I kind of have a love-loathe relationship with the word busy. I love the word I'm a productive AF son of a gun if there ever was one. And I never consider myself busy. But I also understand by other people's interpretation of the situation, that would be busy and hustle and everything else. But I guess where I'm going with this is that actually is something that would probably top my list of State of the Union things to teach others. It's never been easier to scale your time. It's never been easier to scale your content. Now, team, so other humans helping you out, systems, and technology aren't new, but technology is so much better. And so not only can I leverage AI and technology to really scale my time and my productivity and my outputs, but I've actually trained my team to do so. We are a team that is very invested into AI and different technologies. So when you see this whole PX Docs, Experience Miracles podcast kind of megaship just cranking, when you actually open the hood, you'd be like, jeez, they actually have more white space, and they do more with less time than you could ever imagine. I'm probably not saying this all exactly how I want to, but that would be actually the first thing I would kind of like preach from the mountaintops. It's like, it's never been easier to be productive. And those have always been my absolutes that I will crank towards my mission and vision. I love it. So I love getting after it, but I will never cross the line of being unhealthy with my personal health, my fitness, my energy, my nervous system's well-being, and then most importantly, my family. Like I've just been on that, the whole time.
Has that always been the case? Have you always had good
Yeah.
boundaries with regards to that stuff? Yeah.
Yeah. Obsessively, truthfully. Yeah.
Let's suppose there's somebody out there that doesn't have as good a boundaries, and I don't all the time. I've been forced to find some boundaries this last 6 months. Like, how do you, because you coach a lot of docs in this situation, how do you help them with that challenge?
Yeah, well, one mentor, I just really kind of like force them to get around people that have balance and when I say balance, I'm gonna sweet spot it. I'm gonna put these terms with it. Balance to me is a sweet spot. It's not too much or too little. Like I think people can be woefully unhappy if they're working, finger quoted for me because I love it so much. But like if they're working too little, well then they're lacking purpose and meaning and fulfillment. And I wouldn't want that life either, right? Too much freedom can be you just get in your head and you just get off track in that way. But you can also obviously get way freaking off track by going, so I've always just strived for this sweet spot. And then what I did is, God, I'm gonna sound like such a nerd with this. It's how I do marketing and everything else. I just mathed it all out, buddy. I just turned it into I just turned it into a schedule and I turned it into a system that is based upon math that says, I'm willing and able to produce this much of X, Y, and Z. And like, here's the minimum number I got to get to feel like I'm creating my impact and growth I want. And here's the maximum number that I know I wouldn't go across because that would then create sacrifice of family. And I know where those ranges are. And I just freaking operate obsessively within those ranges. And do not get me wrong. I bump up and, sometimes get your chubby little toes over one line or the other, right? And I tend to bump over the getting after it line. But I'm super quick to adjust if I, start to hit that line a little bit.
You have some really unique and very powerful belief systems that support you and that I've seen from working with you. And one of them is you're very happy to invest in really good people around you.
Yeah.
And you and Christina, you don't need to be the delivery mechanism of everything. I really admire that about you. I want to share this story here because Tony asked me to do a project for him, might have been 3 years ago. I wanted some hand putting a training program together. And I wrote out the training. I said, is this what you want? He said, yeah. I said, look, buddy, let me just write out the course for you. Because then I said, what do you want to pay for it there too? And you kind of gave me the numbers based on that too, and what you thought your conversions, all that stuff are there too. And I said, look, buddy, let me just write the course for you. I'll give it to you. You've just film it yourself then. He went, no, I want you to do it. I went, well, you realize what you're going to pay me based on what we said before in our agreements? It's like, yes. Like, and at that moment, I went, this is very interesting in terms of a model that you have with regards to, and sometimes it's the cliche of, if you want to go fast, go alone. And if you want to go far, then you need a team around. Can you speak a little bit to that whole belief system of yours?
Yeah, because that whole cliche proverb or whatever, I love to take cliches and proverbs. I respect them because I always make this joke like you got to earn yourself to a cliche. When people are like, "Oh, that's so cliche," and then they dismiss it, I'm like, "Well, that is the dumbest thing you should ever dismiss." It earned itself to a freaking proverb, and they print it on T-shirts. Might want to go ahead and adopt it, So, but then there's me, so I'm like, "Well, shit, I bet we could squeeze a little more juice out of this lemon." So, what if you want to go far and fast together? So then you need, so that's an and equation, not an or. So I hate the word or, so I switch everything to and. That's a belief system. And then you have to figure out, okay, if you want that, if you're going to expand what you want out of that, you have to do things differently, right? So now you have to bring and into those equations too. So to go far and fast together as a team, you need a quantity, size of team. So most people never even kind of get that first thing figured out. They're just literally short-staffed. There's no other way to say it other than, what it is. And then two, even if they are like, oh, okay, I'll hire people, they just hire, turds, and they pay them low, they train them poorly, they take care of them poorly, they never lead. So we do the opposite of both of those. We've always been, most people would probably say we're overstaffed, which to me is the exact sweet spot to just scale and haul ass and create impact without sacrificing my family and my health, right? Because we can, many hands make light work. And then that's one, that's nice, that's good, that's table stakes. Quality. And this is a lesson I definitely have leaned into more over the last couple of years, Angus, which scared the shit out of me. We now have, starting in March here, we will be employing our 10th 10 six-figure employees. Between all and six figures is a lot, like for one, right? And honestly, now that I know the value and the impact and all the things we're talking about that come from these just world-class people on our team and what they can do for our mission vision, Christina and I and my family, I honestly can't wait. And this is a Hormozy thing. I've heard it from him and now I've adopted it and love it. So I'll repeat it. I can't wait to hire a $250,000. Actually, we have a couple of those. I can't wait to hire a $500,000 or $1 million, team member, because if I'm getting this for this, what is $1 million person worth?
Yeah.
And I can't wait to find out. I hope to find out.
So what do you have to believe? So just to run the maths on that is that, so there's $1 million of salaries is that you're about to have minimum. Okay. And that's assuming everybody's just on six figures and there's more than two. What do you, because for lots of people that would be ulcer inducing, like that would have an ass puckering there too. What do you believe that they don't, that feels exciting?
Yeah. Well, first off, I make sure my diet is full of seed oils and gluten so it plugs up my gut so that way, okay, that's just a bad joke, but that's funny, so that I never even noticed that. Okay. Totally opposite of that. So what you have to believe is that pediatric chiropractic is unstoppable and it's the greatest product in the marketplace right now. I would not hire one six-figure employee if I was in a red ocean. Okay. I'm in the bluest primed freaking flashing blue light. Let's go marketplace ever. So we are in natural, drug-free, nervous system focused family healthcare. Now, everybody listening, don't just take that as fun words. You're like, rah, rah. Let's brand that. So the pharmaceutical system failing, like absolutely pediatrician failing, like their product, their brand found out, exposed, RFK Jr., Maha, let's go, right? Big food failing. So these stock prices are crumbling. Well, guys, money's out there. So if people are unchoosing that direction, they have to, by default, somebody, something, some profession has to fill that gap. Families need a doctor. Ba-bam. Who is the doctor? And we are doctors. There's not that many, right, that have the level of primary care that we can have. So that's a blessing that our profession has fought for, and thank God they had it. And then, so who's the doctors who can take care of the whole family and take care of everything. They're also sick of being siloed and I got to go to this doctor for the ear, nose, and throat. I got to go to this jackass for the gastroenterology. I got to go to this jackass for the immune system. Didn't these idiots study everything? Why are they only special in one thing? I don't think they think that. I think that. And so they're going to us, nervous system focused doctors. So I could go on and on. But the reason I believe that, Angus, is because I work backwards from the potential growth of the marketplace. And I see opportunity that I promise you, I feel this way to be true. I feel like I am not doing even close to a good a job of keeping up. So if I'm feeling like I'm not keeping up, right, with the opportunity that's right there, well, then probably collectively as chiropractors, we could really get going, right? And stepping into this pediatric and family marketplace, drug-free, that's our brand, nervous system, which is now trending, right? Cold plunges, freaking infrared sauna, like you got to see this stuff happening. And it's really, I think it's been happening over 10 to 20 years, the more from pharmaceutical and chemical to natural, but that's like the bigger one. When you actually get more granular where people buy, the nervous system is freaking trending, which is the best thing I've ever seen in my almost 20 years of being a chiropractor.
Phenomenal. When, chiropractors have been having this conversation that kind of shifted from hard bones on soft nerves into, a more eloquent understanding of the role that we have in the central nervous system, sympathetic dominance, the role. And this has been happening over the last 15 years. And naturally then chiropractors started to have some of this conversation. And in the early days, I'm like, this is too confusing. If you share this message out with the people, like they don't need to know it. Like, that we talked about before, if you confuse, you lose. But I've gone 180 on that. I'm like, you get out there and jump in Google search, look for how many people are typing in sympathetic nervous system, polyvagal theory, things like that too. They are talking about this. I've done a lot of different, reading and stuff on breath work and cold. Like they're all talking the same thing about the
vagus nerve.
100%. So, and in concepts of, I'm a big fan of Hoopman's podcast. I don't know how most people understand a word he's saying. Like he just, I'm sure he dumbs it down a little bit, the language he goes through. And this, like, our families are coming to us now, or there are families out there that like, man, I want that. So
they're putting it in their goals. They are literally ready because our content is chock full. Nobody's done it. Nobody's pushed this envelope like us. Like nobody's taken the could be confusing and simplified it. And that's my neuro brain, born in Iowa, raised on a farm, blessing that God gave me to be able to do both at the same time, to talk about, the vagus nerve and disafferentation and put it into a 30-second video and farmer it, and make it simple. But when I could literally on my laptop right now, I could pull up from PJ and our AI and our SEO team. Like we crush old school SEO with new school AI, right? Claude and ChatGPT. I can tell you that, and I've been tracking it for over 3 years now, probably actually March will be 4 years. So every month I get a report from our team as to how much certain keywords like vagus nerve, dysautonomia, sympathetic dominance, nervous system dysregulation have gone up. Dude, they have been climbing rapidly month by month for years now. And it should be chiropractors crying happy tears that that's actually happening because that's our freaking terminology. That's our brand.
Yeah. So I think if you bring back to kind of start of the union, the first thing you talked about was scale. Yeah. The second thing I think about is sophistication of the market. It's they are coming around in droves. And in the early days, I remember when I first started here, it was Deepak Chopra chiropractors standing up on stage and saying, listen, he's talking our stuff there too, but it's everywhere now. And, people wanting to meditate and breath work and all that type of stuff there too. And so we need to meet them there because we have a tool. Like the one thing that's wonderful, well, one of the many things that's wonderful about an adjustment is, breath work is great, cold plunge is great, but the speed at which an adjustment causes these changes.
Do you want to know State of the Union? Let's talk about, so that's all what's working, right? So all this language, and I could literally show you the top trending. And actually what's so cool is Instagram and Facebook and TikTok, they switch their algorithm to actually function. People are like, oh no, AI, Google's going to go away. Well, this search concept still dominates. And it actually now dominates social media algorithms where, and hashtags have always done this, but it actually, then the Instagram guy put it out there, like it actually functions more like a search engine. Obviously YouTube does too, right? So as these SEO, which if you love digital digital marketing and you're splitting hairs with this, which many, I know your audience does. And like SEO, isn't that kind of like, isn't that the newspaper now? No, they've actually embedded SEO and search function into social media platforms. So when you crush it, you're crushing the new stuff too. So anyways, here's what will destroy your brand: the spine, bones.
Right.
And see, so if you've done the one, it's a real son of a bee because you're like, in the past we wanted to talk about the nervous system, but we felt like the spine was more of our like effective starting point, right? Okay, let's start with the spine, and then we're going to take it into the nervous system. Do you know how many people, because branding is visual and everything else, people just got stuck on the spine. Chiropractors got stuck on the spine. The patients got stuck on the spine. The marketplace kind of, pigeonholed us and stuck us on the spine. So actually, and it's one of the first training videos, the one with the most comments, Angus, when people go through the PX membership. And so you can tell it's the real like, oh my God, this is the game changer video that I teach. It's called Ditch the Spine. It's literally the name of the video. And it does it. So then people are like, what do I talk about? The nervous system, the nervous system, the nervous system, the nervous system. So we've rebranded chiropractic, if you will, not by actually, more so, I'll say it this way, more so by subtraction, I think, almost, than addition, where we just don't say the things other chiropractors say and we don't show the visuals other chiropractors have, which I think has always landed us in this physical back pain world and limited us, kept us out of the nervous system world. We just removed that obstruction, pun intended, subluxation, and away we go.
And I think too, some of my thoughts in around this were based on outdated media. Because if you like think about prior to any form of socialized, democratized media, trying to change chiropractic to nervous system, you're either going to have a lot of money, okay, because you've got to get in there and pay for it to happen there too. You got to be lucky. Like, so maybe you're the next Deepak Chopra and, that comes up, or it's going to take a tremendous amount of hard work. Whereas now, if I'm in a city area and my radius in around me, I've got 100,000 people, I can spend $20 a week and I can put out a piece of content and I can have it go just to them. And maybe I can even tighten that down a little bit, choose an age and maybe some interest in there as well. And I can then very simply, without getting fancy at all, those people that watch my videos, I make sure that they get the next ones as well. I can literally change their minds for $1,000 that year. I can get 52 messages in front of them. So once you watch one of my videos, I'm going to make sure you see the next one, and Google will tell us with this, what they call the 0 moment of truth there too, that if I can get you to watch 7 hours of content, there's different numbers. Some people say 46 minutes. Anyway, if I can get you to watch enough of my stuff there too, that's how we can change it. So,
brother, I used to spend, in order to get the nervous system, I actually did this even 15 years ago. I was like, nope, I'm not going to be a back pain chiropractor. I'm not going to be about the spine. I'm not going to be about muscles. I'm going to be about kids. I'm going to be about pediatrics, pregnancy, Perfect Storm. So Perfect Storm is the brand we built kind of from nothing to be about autism and everything else. It's now actually a brand. And then the nervous system. So those are kind of like my 3 pieces, my pillars, and then the nervous system kind of like being the one that they're all tied to, right? So those are my differentiating, brand elements, right? That I would talk about. I would spend $10,000 in my formative years of the practice building my brand, not getting new patients. Hear me on this, everybody. Building my brand to be about those things, which is the same thing as saying to not be about what every other chiropractor is, right? If you can really go hard on 1 or 2 things and get down that road, it gets you off of everybody else's path too. So you get 2 things at once. And I would spend $10,000 because I was doing radio and print, because I'm old enough to have started practice before social media was there. And it cost me back then 10 freaking thousand. Nobody believes me these days when I tell this story, Angus. None of my young docs are like, and now I don't even spend PWC, which has 8 doctors, and we're looking for, 50, 60, 70 new patients a month, because our organic is actually so damn good. We don't even spend $1,000. We do run some ads, right, for workshops and boosts and everything else. But also because our brand is so good, I don't have to spend the $3,000, $4,500 on ads, that maybe a lot of chiropractors do today to get new patients in the door. So just think about that. Like, I'm reaching literally millions, or trim it down. Let's keep it local, right? Like you're talking about with that. And you would do that. You'd want to be smart to build your brick and mortar versus what I'm doing with PX Docs. And so you can reach thousands to hundreds of thousands for hundreds of dollars per month. I can't even, like, I just said that out loud again. I, having lived the other life, the $10,000 life for freaking radio and print bullshit, I
Mm,
can't even believe this is true. I literally
yeah.
can't believe this is true right now.
And
It's
and the
wild.
radio and print was almost impossible to track with how many people
Oh,
actually engaged with it and for how long
crapshoot, total crapshoot.
was true. So,
I
and
just had to, I just had to, I just had to convince myself it was working, you know, to
yes,
just,
yeah, well, it's based on good sound logic as well. So we've talked about scale, and then what I've referred to as the sophistication of the market as well. What else do you see is changing if chiropractors are to catch that tidal wave? What else fits in
so
there?
So I'm going to come back to the word trending. So let's go big picture trending. That's like the number one thing. Okay, the nervous system is trending, drug free
Yeah.
is trending, being the
Yes.
antithesis of a pediatrician is trending, right? So being root cause, being compassionate, being a doctor who listens and talks about the nervous system. Like that's our kind of macro content that's trending.
Yeah.
Micro is very much being able to produce. So in PX Plus, which you help us continue to crush with, we are very ahead of the curve in our timing with our topics is very intentional and it's very strategic and it will and we can actually really we're usually a month or two ahead of time, but we can also even have built into to kind of be what I call reactionary, like proactive reactive, meaning like when RFK, started to gain steam, you better believe you should be posting about that, right? Because
Mm,
and kind of riding those coattails into that conversation. So we would work those things into our conversation. But even that's the later example. So trending themes. So we build our social media content calendar. We do two different themes per week, and then we do this for it's all done for our PX Plus clients, which is the genius of their lives because they don't have PJ and the AIT. I have an entire team. I like we kicked off. I have literally some of
mm,
the top marketing geniuses stolen from other industries which have scaled way beyond chiropractic. I've stolen people from the supplement industry, which is $1 trillion industry and companies, right? And I've stolen people from others that they know natural health and they know how to scale content. And then they experience nervous system focused chiropractic for their family. So they were easy steals onto our team.
mm,
So we have this really advanced selection of which topics we are talking about and posting about when. WHEN. So the timing of our content is very, very strategic. And what I see most chiropractors do is the opposite. They're pulling it out of their you know what. I'm due to make a post today, so I'll just choose ear infections. In
mm.
July. Over here. It's
Yes.
like what a terrible thing to talk about in July.
Mm.
And so there's 1,000 examples I could give of what that actually looks like. But trending, timed themes will be all the difference in the world of your content crushing or not. That's one of them for sure.
Yeah. So, and again, just for our listeners, if there's something that's already happening in the media that is creating swell, we'll keep on using this metaphor of waves and
Yeah.
swell and momentum and stuff like that too. Don't try and create your own. Like, get on board of that and link, what you do to that. So, again, if it is that Tony was saying beforehand, for those of us here in the southern hemisphere in the summer at the moment, there too, it's most kids don't have coughs and colds and ear infections and adenoids out happening in the summer. It's a winter thing that happens, and then invariably that might come up. And you can bet if someone starts talking about that stuff, jump on board with it. Look for it, be flexible, being able to pivot really quickly and find what's trending. And I think,
Yeah.
when we talk about it, that in terms of state of the union stuff there too, is that flexibility, because shit is changing really quickly.
It does.
So in terms of what's working, how it's working as well. And so we need to be not too holding on to our ideas too firmly, because the chances are the way that you practice and maybe even the way that you communicate and do those things in 2025 may not be the way that we do it in 2026. So there needs to be flexibility there. Yeah.
I think so. Think of it this way. I was taught to make my marketing calendars, select my monthly themes, do my workshops. They're going to be on this date, and this is what I'm going to talk about. And then when social media came to be, I just adopted that same strategy with social media content. In February, I'm talking about this. March, I'm talking about this. April's going to be this workshop, right? And I was using some of this. I was definitely using seasonality and trends that family, same thing. Winter, like right now, we are talking about RSV and croup and that because we're in winter up here, right? So I
Mm,
always had that. That's kind of like the one-on-one level of this. So now, though, we have built our entire social media content and our whole marketing platform with stability and flexibility. So we
Yes.
have 75% of our content is pre-planned, but 25% of it, especially when we go live and we go on stories and what's kind of behind the scenes, that 25% is RFK Jr., Vegas nerve popping, and we're infiltrated too. That would be because people may be listening and go, okay, well, I want to do this, but how do I do this? Well, one, use common sense. That's kind of your table stakes, right? With the family practice, there's certain topics, around parent teacher conferences and when grades come out and exams are ADHD and anxiety, big topics because people are stressed about that stuff, right? And then you have the immune stuff and everything else. The other way you do this is every freaking one of you has this data. You're on the tables. Your patients
Yeah.
are talking about it. You are literally engaged in conversation, hopefully, with your ideal avatar. Take freaking notes. Our back office of our practice is what I call the war room. It's our doc meeting where we have our meetings and do our notes. But this whole one wall is a whiteboard, and there's a column. There's like a little section on the whiteboard where all of us docs are trained. It says trending topics. What are the
Mm.
questions that moms are asking us in the practice this week? Well,
Yeah.
that's top of mind. That's got to swell, and sometimes you can pin the tail on the donkey and go, well, that makes sense that this is happening in December. I'll tell you what, guys, a lot of this stuff is entirely random. Why is Miralax in the news? Why is, this thing in the news? You can't even figure it out, but it is happening. So you
Yep.
need to be about it. And so what we'll do is we'll track it, record it. And then the other one too that fits this. So you have your rooms, you're in practice, you're paying attention to what people are saying and say it back to them. That's the best content. And then infiltrate the groups. We have our CAs in all these autism support groups, local crunchy moms of Crystal Lake. We're in every group. We're watching those threads. And then via Slack and Asana and kind of our team communication channels, my CAs will be like, hey, Dr. Tony, I think you should do a video about motor tics. There's this whole thread going off in here about motor tics. Guess what? We do the video, said CA posted in the group. Seems like it was, I love this because I'm very much connected to my source and to God, and He is directing all this traffic. But I kind of get a chuckle when people are like, it's like God wanted me to see this video tonight. And it's like, yes. And also SEO analytics, and you know what I mean? And then we did a bunch of other things too, I love that phrase because it's like, agreed. And there's a little bit of sleuthing
Yeah.
behind that too.
I love it. I reckon going forwards, the chiropractors that are going to find it easiest in practice are those ones that are going to get really good at individual branding, i.e., around
Yeah.
them. They're going to commit to being the face of their brand. And you see this in, when we think about Virgin, we think about Richard Branson, we know he's not flying the planes. We know he's got nothing to do with it. When you're buying a Tesla, you've probably got a thing for Elon Musk. We see years ago, a big brand like Amazon, we wouldn't have known who their CEO was, their founder. So this happens because we want to humanize brands. And even more so now, we want to humanize this. Like, I want to know who you are. And there's this opportunity for you to be out there as well and to step into that too. I love, it was Dean Jackson who I first heard coined the term to commit to being 5 Mile famous. It works so well for us as chiropractors that in that little 5 mile radius around there, I in the little town that I am in here, I hang out with another chiropractor. We often walk along the beach and his practice is here. And Scott cannot go more than 100 meters before he's, hey, Bill, hey, Sue,
Yep.
hey, this. Like we hopped in the water this morning there. It was 6:30 in the morning there. There was one other woman. Scott went out there and she said to me, is that Dr. Scott? I'm like, he's everywhere. And that's where we want to be. And again, that is possible now. Can you talk to what your thoughts are on that? Because you've been a leader in this idea of just personal branding.
Yeah, and it's wild. And help me, I'll just share my thoughts authentically and raw because I'm in this crazy new season where I'm taking this 5 mile famous rule, which is as true gets, brother man, with personal branding, especially doctors. Okay, there's just a special affinity for especially pediatric doctors, right? Of that way. And it really, really, really works for us. Let's just call a spade, right? Like people just get this connection to their family chiropractor that is just a freaking bond. It's actually why we have this weird dichotomy of our brand on the out. People who have never been to a chiropractor don't necessarily have a great brand association with us, but people who have are like, I'm never leaving, right? It's just this weird dichotomy that we exist with. So anyway, so that works for us. So yes, I'll say it through joke and reality, and then I'll kind of try and match it with strategy. So real life stories, my kids have for well over a decade now, never wanted to go to any community event inside the community here, their school, because I am the slowest moving parent they have. Because I'm chatty, but it's all patience. Their school, we take care of like 50% of their school. We go to anything downtown Crystal Lake, like the farmer's market. If I just wanted to grab one thing, that's an hour and 40 minutes to get out of there, right? Like we've been 5 Mile famous for a while. So my kids, especially my teenagers, are like, dang it, Dad, like stop it. So that's awesome. That's the real life example of what you're talking about. Because and please help me with this, Angus, because I'm rounding third base to really owning this through prayer, working with my team, working with everybody on this. But it was a real, I think you know this already. We've chatted about this. I actually held off on launching the Experience Miracles podcast, which his full name is the Experience Miracles podcast with Dr. Tony Ebel. So it has my name in it. I held off for 18 months, really working with mentors like Josh and strategists and everything else. Cause my hope, stupidly placed, was, hey, can we do this without my name on it? Could we take pediatric chiropractic to the masses and I remain unrecognizable? Like, could that actually happen? And we just studied it, and we went through it, and we built the whole strategy. And I just had to pray to God. I literally prayed and prayed and prayed and I prayed. And I said, well, I'm telling him, I'm like, I want this outcome. I want millions, literally hundreds of millions of kids to put pediatric chiropractic first. Not just like, I don't want it just to have it. I'm big goals. I want it to literally replace the pediatrician with us, right? So then when you build that strategy out, and if you say, okay, I'm really committed to that vision and mission, me personally are committed to that. And this rule of personal branding really works in today's world like never before. The Elon Musk and the Bezos examples you kicked this off with, I knew it would work. And I have literally now taken vacations over the last couple of months, brother. It just happened 2 days ago. I've been in airports in Cancun. I've been in airports in the Bahamas. I've been in airports in Miami and been recognized. So however many miles, that is away now, because, and hopefully I'm doing a decent job of getting people to understand the value of this. Like, holy shit, it works. And now my goal is to say, okay, there's an opportunity right now for a leader, a voice to represent voices, thousands, hopefully 10,000s of us get behind this, that can cut through the noise like a Robert Kennedy Jr. has, or like a Food Babe has. If we associate these movements, Josh Axe, people only know about collagen protein because of Josh Axe. His personal brand brought the product to become a product, and it's now a product category, right? And so like you have these examples that have proven, and I need to shut up now about this, but I am so committed to getting nervous system focused pediatric and family chiropractic out there. I am taking the rules of personal branding and scaling it massively to local. I'll never back off. I'll continue to do it here locally. I still represent PwC. People, know me. They associate the practice with that. I'm teaching, we're branding our doctors, right? They're becoming known in the community. They can't go to the farmer's market either. It's awesome, and now we're going to do it globally, I guess, is the game plan.
It's so, first of all, awesome. Congratulations. And thank you.
But sorry, real quick. It made me, I didn't say this, scared the shit out of me. I
totally do.
I was resistant. So those of you that are thinking I got a brand new practice, it's brick and mortar. You think I'm some magical unicorn of no fear. Dude, I was freaking, my HRV tanked. I had to pray on this. I had to talk to my pastor. I had to get my team to convince me. I had to talk to Angus. It's real life stuff.
Yeah. I think, I often think I have a level of cautiousness around anyone who wants to be a leader. Like, it's the reluctant, you know what I mean? Like, it's like,
I do.
If there's a humbleness in about it, it's probably a really good spot to be coming from too. So one of the biggest challenges I hear from chiropractors all the time in around this kind of personal branding stuff is the idea that look, I have multiple practitioners that work for me, and I don't want everybody just requesting to come in and see me.
Yeah.
And I want to remind them, like I kind of said to you beforehand too, that, you know, when we love a brand like Elon Musk, we know that he hasn't, you know, he's not going to sell us the car. You know, when we like Virgin, we know that, you know, Branson's not going to be flying the plane there too. That what we actually get to do when we build a personal brand is we get to really edify our staff. And I think that, man, if Tony's so damn good, I know that he's only going to employ amazing people. And at the same time, we should be building the brand of them as well. The one constant about your practice, you'll have associates that come and go, okay? And if you're doing a great job, they'll stay for a long time. But you're there, like, and they will really, when they call the office, they're not going to expect to see you. And as you build those other people up there, so don't worry about that. In fact, it's even more reason, if you have multiple docs working for you, that you should, you know, be building your personal brand. Has that been your experience too?
I love it, dude. It is. When you have a brand that is built on an expectation of excellence, that filters down to everyone on your team. Consumers are smart. Moms are smart. They know, man, if this doc is just creating all this content and has all this compassion and has all this expertise, they have a standard of excellence that they automatic, which is true. They automatically know that everybody they're going to interact with at that practice is going to be on that level. And that's my favorite. I'm so glad you brought that up. That's my favorite thing to teach, because you can look at this through the wrong lens and go, well, won't I then be, you know, kind of like trapped to my practice or pigeonholed to my practice? No, you'll be able to expand and scale your practice, because you can actually, like, these other amazing chiropractors can tap into your personal brand, and collectively this thing just builds. I definitely had those thoughts in kind of this misperceived way before in the past too. Like, oh no, is this going to like work for a season and then / kind of trap me into it? And the opposite is absolutely true. Like it just builds the practice. And now there's brands. The practice has a brand. I have a brand. The doctors have the brand, but really it's one brand, and it's freaking amazing. It's unstoppable.
Yeah. Let's move to next. So far we've talked about scale is going to be big in 2025, sophistication, trend, talked about individual branding. What else are you seeing as coming towards us?
Videos. I think if you and me have been on this for years, we would have answered this last year, you know, we'd go back many years and say videos. And so then I love that. That's the big picture. Just like before, I was kind of like big picture with it, then granular. Now people ask all the time, well, what kind of videos? One, consistently, you just crank. You got, because how many times can I do a subluxation video? We'll do one every single week, because people need to hear it 17 times, 77 times before they really figure it out. And the next group of people are going to be hearing it for the first time. So you got to get them to 1, to get them to 2, to get them to 77. So anyways, videos, we just crank videos. We crank short form and we crank long form. So the short form has definitely, we're a heavy education. Actually, let me go in the right order. We are a heavy brand built on emotion. We build on story, our story, patient stories, testimonials. That is the tip of our spear. Then we go to science and education. So we take the sophisticated content and we've simplified it. And then we're obviously a brand built upon taking action. Like, okay, there's a next step here. And so the way I see videos is videos, and our patients report this. We track our acquisition, our lead acquisition and our new patient acquisition. And so we actually ask them. Our CAs are trained to ask them, you know, not just how did you hear it? Actually, this is a great granular training tactic. Stop just asking on your paperwork. So we change our paperwork to be multiple choice instead of fill in the blank that says, how did you hear about our practice? And then I'd retrain my CAs to say, please tell me all the different ways you've heard about our practice. Now you're like, what the hell does this have to do with anything?
Yes.
Marketing done today is they have multiple stops. No mom, because why would they? If they hear about you, I love people are like, oh, I'm word of mouth only. No, you're not. No, dang it, you're not. Like, they hear about it from one person, you know, and then they go online, they check your reviews, they check your website, and they can do this from their phone in 30 seconds, you know, 30 minutes if they have an Android, because it takes longer because it's a piece of crap. So, you know, like, but they can check you all out. So I need to know how many of those tally marks to make sure. And so what's working is videos. And when we ask, hey, what videos have you watched? They answer with both, meaning short form. So they love our reels. We have a very entertaining brand. We show behind the scenes. We show our personality. We're very sarcastic. We're pretty punchy. We have an entire so we produce two we produce two videos a week, so 8 a month, that are titled under the category "Punch the Pediatrician in the Nuts." Like literally on our planet. That is, I don't know why. It's the internal title for like a little punchy,
Nice.
sort of one. And people, that is our best performing content, by the way. People freaking love satire and sarcasm and punchiness, right?
Mm.
And so we produce short form videos. The goal of the short form videos is Gary V. I love it. It's the appetizer to the entree.
Yes.
Long form videos. I'd be remiss to not finish this
Yeah.
answer by saying, if you're not making 3 minute to 8 minute, sometimes I'll go even long. If I'm getting onto a tougher topic like the vagus nerve, we have people stay engaged with our long form videos for 13, 15, 18 minutes. So kind of like TED Talk, YouTube style content. I
Yeah.
produce a ton of that here in the studio all the time. And I will tell you this, don't miss
Yeah.
this if you're taking notes. Those are the videos that actually get new patients.
Hmm.
The short form, the little bit of the kind of lighthearted, light information, those are moving them closer to us, but there's just not enough meat on the bone for them to buy yet. So the metrics around your videos will really screw with you, and you should be tracking your metrics. Short form videos will get a lot more of the top end kind of vanity metrics, right? Like look at how
Hmm.
many they'll go. We have videos go viral all the time. Um, but our actual new patients tell us, I watched your video on ear infections and and they mean the long one, right? Like the YouTube one. And those are the ones that when I'm doing consults, and my CAs are trained to get this info, but I'll actually ask on consults, Angus. I'll be like, tell me all the ways you heard about. I actually want to know, like, kind of how educated are they not at that point. So long form videos, man, and long form articles.
Yeah.
And I love that. You can tell by my long answers to every question. That's my favorite kind of content. Dude, that's gold for us, man. Gold. And nobody does them. Chiropractors
No.
don't do them. God
No.
almighty.
Because they're telling the story of themselves, and they hear it from other places, is that attention spans are decreasing. I'm
It's
like,
bullshit.
are you serious? Like, Rogan's podcasts are 3 hours long, Huberman's are
Huberman.
90 minutes long, and plus they're two. And I'm talking to patients each and every week that just spent the weekend binge watching New Girl and watched episode or seasons 1 to 8. Like,
For sure.
it's not that. It does mean this. Okay, your content has to be good. So
Yes,
just
sir.
because it's 30 minutes, it's not the time length, but you need to do 30 minutes of quality stuff, nice camera, good microphone, and really understanding how to deliver and take somebody through a journey. They're delivered with passion. In fact, let me take that back. You don't need a fancy camera and microphone, although it
No,
will
you don't.
help. But the content needs to be delivered in a way that's engaging. Camera robs you of energy there
Yeah.
too. You need to be enthusiastic, all that type of stuff there. But it's got to. I'm bullish back on long form content
I am
again.
too.
So,
It's moving the needle for us, both on the practice platform. We're getting more new patients from our long form videos, brick and
yeah,
mortar practice, and then we're getting more leads to the directory, and which is a new patient that I send to a trained PX doc on the directory. We actually, and that's my goal. Back to kind of the big vision I shared before. We'll pull it off. We're going to do it within three to
yeah,
5 years. The podcast and the PX Docs platform will be the number one new patient source for hundreds, if not thousands, of PX offices. Like we're generating between 1,000 to 1,500 new patients per month right now, and we've just got started.
it's wild, dude. It's wild.
Yeah.
Hey, man, as we begin to wind this up a little there too, I'm interested in this. We've talked about what we think is coming as well. What do you think it's time to let go of? Like, as chiropractors going into 2025, what's it time to let go of? What's the thing of the past for us?
I would have answered this one. Same with videos. I would have said I saw the writing on the wall for this 5 years ago too. Like you're dead and I want to say this punchy enough to drive the point home, but not to be rude because I know, you get advice from people that are trusted and it worked for them. So it's kind of that adopt conversation before, but it's a different era. You're dead in the water if you're doing screenings and corporate talks and now it's not that everything has to be digital. There's a little bit of we're having a huge comeback with workshops. I'm not answering this one with workshops. Our workshops are making a comeback, which thank God. I love that. I think those are the best new patients ever. But I have a lot of clients that come into PX and they were told to, and they did, therefore, they didn't do any digital marketing. They didn't do any they did all old school screenings, fishbowl, business card, lunch and learns. Not only did COVID kill off a ton of them because you couldn't do any of that, but they haven't come back. And there's one final like trump card why I would put this in that to answer this one. Let's say they do work. Might be the worst outcome for you because now you're 3 to 5 years into practice. You're having your third kid. You're already adjusting 3 to 4 to 500 people a week. You now have a team of 3 to 4 to 5 humans who are going to need your energy. And who's got the time and the energy to still require? And by the way, screening patients tend to not stick. Lunch and so you have to keep so you have to just keep doing them. The worst part about them is how energy expending they are. And then even if you do get them to work, it's the worst addiction you could ever have. I mean, dude, buddy, we have practitioners coming into PX who are, successful by metrics, 300, 400, 500 a week. They're 26 years old. They're 28 years old and they're burnt out, dude. They're much more unhealthy than me at 43. They look less healthy than me at 43 because they built their practice on these old school, outdated marketing strategies that I just personally think, and I know people will argue with me vehemently about this, but like I could see having them stick around if the phone hadn't been invented, like in the absence of something better, but goodness gracious, does something much better exist? And so the new screenings, I've made this joke for a long time. I go screening every single day. I put this screen in front of my face and I record content and I write, posts, and then that screening goes out and reaches a lot more people in a lot better way than I could at freaking Costco.
Yeah. I think kind of what we've talked a lot about here is the importance of innovation. And just because something worked, and I'm part of this too. I get so attached to things that worked in the past and my ideas. And so there's a cognitive bias there that is sometimes difficult for me to let go of. And this is one thing that certainly this first quarter for me, I'm just reviewing everything, including this podcast, which takes a considerable amount of my time. I'm like, why am I doing it? What are the metrics? And it's moving the needle, all those type of things there too. But sometimes we continue to do things for old reasons there as well. So, buddy, it's I'm hoping this is a multi-listen for peeps today, because what Tony has laid out for you is a roadmap that will help you have more impact, more income, and then greater fulfillment, as he calls it, or enjoyment, as I do as well, to starve off the burnout, the overwhelm, the frustration that happens, and to, just bring a whole bunch more joy into your practice. And this is not Tony is on the ground doing this stuff himself in person, 8 practitioners in there too, as well as coaching, chiropractors from around the world. So, brother, thank you so much for sharing so generously today. It's always a pleasure for me personally, and I'm grateful on behalf of my audience that you've shared today. I'm so excited for, if you get what Tony said before, just to touch base on it, there are 1,000 families a month now being driven to chiropractic because of the work that he's doing outside of that. And it's only just started. So if Tone's ever in your part of the world and you can see him personally, I'll have the links to the podcast that he's creating, the patient forward facing one that you want to share with your practice members and stuff like that too. But brother, thank you for everything. I'm very excited to see what comes next.
Thank you for having me, man. This is my favorite podcast, and I mean it's my favorite podcast to get on. I've caught every one of your episodes. They're always implementable, actionable, and so the chance to teach people, like, this is the stuff that's working now to save kids' lives, because that's what this is. Your marketing is literally the first step in saving a child's life and transforming an entire family. So fall in love with it, get really damn good at it, and you'll never want to stop doing it.
Love it, dude. Look forward to seeing you soon. Take care. If you've enjoyed listening to this podcast, you have to come and check out my Community Influencer program. It's my monthly coaching program where we take all this material and I'll work with you to help you apply it, implement it, and systemize it. The Community Influencer Group Coaching Program is designed to help you increase your practice income, impact, and enjoyment. Join me over at anguspyke.com/join. That's anguspyke.com/join. I'd love to see you there.